On March 4th, 1861, a newly elected President Lincoln sent out a desperate plea hoping to avoid a civil war. And he ended his speech with something really powerful. He said, "We're not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." Throughout our nation's history, we have lived through some divided times, and today is probably one of those times. So many of us are angered by the other side. Hatred blinds our judgment. Even our elected officials oftentimes don't have the wisdom to avoid getting sucked into the fray. Now, I generally don't like to make my political views known, and although I think the party of Trump is going to be looked upon by future historians as part of the problem and not the solution, I can understand why we've had this populist uprising, this intense distrust of authority, and this hatred of the other side. In my view, it comes down to one major issue, which is that over the past 50 years, those in the bottom 50% have not seen their incomes rise adjusted for inflation. Meanwhile, the top quintile has seen a multiple-fold increase over the same period of time. The gains in productivity, which have been immense, have largely been kept to the top income brackets and shareholder classes. The worker has not benefited like the capital owners have in proportion or in degree. And by the way, this is backed up by data. And if they had, their incomes would have increased across the board by the percentage increase in real per capita GDP. And this is one of the great defects of the economy that we have today, where the greatest good is maximizing shareholder profit, regardless of what it costs. And I particularly mean social costs in this situation. It doesn't work if the shareholder class does not then give those profits, take those profits, and then contribute back to society to the uplifting of all its members. If I create a company, let's just say I make $1 billion, it doesn't help society in the slightest if I take that money and then buy an island, or I build a yacht, right? Imagine what that money could do with targeted investments to society, direct investments to the very poorest classes to give them a hand up, not a handout, to teach them a skill that could end the cycle of poverty altogether. Now, I would love to be able to do this in the future through ConCap, and a lot of that will depend on the response I get from all of you. But when the extreme selfishness is the order of the day, they will say, if they're poor, it's always their fault. They should have worked harder. They should have made better choices. And maybe in some cases they're right. But what about the vast majority of Americans who have made relatively good decisions, but who have been born into massive disadvantage? I'm not talking here about wealth inequality or income inequality. What I'm really talking about here is opportunity inequality. I'm not against free market capitalism. I think it's done wonders. And there are always going to be those who work harder than others in this system. But what we have in America today is a semi-permanent underclass who are getting further and further behind, and they'll have a harder and harder time catching up. Echoing the words of Lincoln, are these not also our fellow Americans? Are we not bound by the mystic cord of memory of mutual brotherhood? And more importantly, is this what we want America to stand for? One of the main reasons I built Conscious Capital is that I want to do my part to be part of the solution. I know that not everyone who watches our video channel is going to become a client, but a lot of people are going to benefit from being taught how to make better financial decisions for themselves and their family. This is how I am choosing to repay the gift that this country, frankly, has given to me. Because I know there is no way, absolutely no way, that I could have reached my point of financial independence in my 20s had I not had the privilege of being here in America. I understand that. I realize that. We are still that shining beacon of light on the hill. the land of opportunity, the haven of the American dream. I'm convinced that it can be for several centuries in the future. But we cannot allow our self-centeredness to break our bonds of affection. And instead, we must, as Lincoln said, be guided by the better angels of our nature. It will take time, no doubt about it. But if we were to reverse the staggering levels of economic inequity that we have today, I am positive that we will restore that great promise of America, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From all of us here at ConCap, happy July 4th.